watched the scanner readings with careful attention. Varath 7 looked beautiful from orbit. Down here, the numbers told a different story. Oxygen levels were perfect. Temperature was comfortable. Gravity felt just right, but the death rate for visitors was 97%. "Captain, receiving transmission from the Galactic Council Observer," said Lisa Morgan from the communications station. She was the team biologist, and her voice carried concern. "Put it through," Daniel replied. The screen flickered, showing an insected face with multiple eyes. Krell, the observer assigned to watch their mission. His species, the Thranks, had tried to colonize this world 3 times. Each attempt ended in disaster. "Captain Hayes, I must warn you one final time." Krell's translator made his words sound urgent. "Varath 7 is classified as a Class X Deathworld. My people lost 200 colonists here. The Vorlak lost 500. The Zentari lost an entire military battalion. But they follow one rule, a rule that every species before you could not obey. The predators ignore anything that moves slowly. But when danger comes, every instinct screams to run. My people ran. Everyone runs. It is basic survival instinct written into every species in the galaxy." The shuttle landed in a clearing surrounded by massive trees with black bark. The previous Thranks base camp sat abandoned nearby, equipment scattered and broken. Daniel stood and faced his team of 20 colonists. "Everyone remembers the briefing," he said. "No sudden movements. No running. If something scary comes, we stay calm and walk. Can everyone do this? What if my body just runs automatically? We can stay awake when exhausted. We can walk slowly when everything says run." The purple sky stretched above them, and 2 suns hung low on the horizon. Everything seemed peaceful. Krell's ship landed nearby, and the Thranks observer scuttled out, his 6 legs moving in rapid patterns. 3 other alien species emerged behind him, representatives from the Galactic Council sent to document what they expected to be another failure. "The previous camp is 200 meters that way," Krell pointed with one appendage. "We should move quickly before the predators detect us." The alien observers followed, but their movements were jerky and quick. Their species had evolved as prey animals. Speed meant survival in their ancestral homes. They were halfway to the old camp when the ground began to shake. Something massive moved through the trees. The colonists heard it before they saw it, a deep rumbling sound like thunder rolling across the ground. Then it stepped into the clearing. The creature stood 15 feet tall at the shoulder. Its body was covered in thick armored plates, dark red like dried blood. 6 legs supported its massive frame, each ending in claws the size of human arms. Its head was mostly mouth, filled with teeth designed to crush and tear. 4 eyes scanned the clearing, and its nostrils flared as it smelled the air. Krell made a high-pitched chittering sound of pure terror. The other alien observers froze in place, their bodies trembling. Every instinct they possessed screamed at them to flee. Amy Carter's breath came in short gasps. Her eyes went wide. Her muscles tensed to run. George Palmer took her hand gently. "Breathe slowly," he whispered. "Count to 10, we're just taking a walk, nothing to worry about." Daniel felt his heart pounding, felt the adrenaline flooding his system, felt every ancient human instinct telling him to run and hide and escape. Instead, he took one slow breath, then another. He placed one foot forward carefully, then the other. "Keep walking," he said softly to his team. "Nice and easy, we're just going to the camp, slow and steady." Its massive head tilted slightly, studying these strange creatures. Then one of the alien observers lost control. The Zentari representative, a small furred creature, bolted. It ran with incredible speed, darting across the clearing toward the ships. The predator moved faster than anything that size should move. It covered the distance in 3 bounds. There was a terrible sound and then silence. The humans kept walking, step by step, slow and steady. The predator returned to the clearing, blood on its jaws. It looked at the humans again. They were still moving at that same calm pace, showing no fear, no aggression, no prey behavior. The creature snorted once. Then it turned and walked back into the forest, losing interest in prey that refused to act like prey. The humans reached the old camp. Only when the predator was completely gone did they allow themselves to breathe normally again. Amy Carter collapsed to her knees, shaking. "We did it," she whispered. "We actually did it." "Impossible. I watched you walk past a hunter-killer. I saw you ignore instinct." "How?" Sometimes survival means doing exactly what your instincts tell you not to do. The behavioral pattern is consistent with the reports. You did well, kid. First contact is always the hardest. I think your species might actually survive here. I think you might be the first. We just need to learn to live by it. And the humans walked calmly through it all, teaching themselves patience in a place where patience meant life itself. 3 weeks had passed since the landing, and the human settlement on Verath 7 was taking shape. The colonists moved through their work with unusual slowness, but that slowness kept them alive. Every structure they built, every path they cleared, every task they completed happened at a walking pace. Lisa Morgan crouched near the edge of the clearing, her scanner pointed at a predator drinking from a nearby stream. The creature was different from the first one they had encountered. This one had long legs and a sleek body built for speed. Its eyes tracked movement with frightening precision. "Fascinating," she whispered into her recorder. "Subject remains completely uninterested in slow-moving humans. Heart rate is calm. No hunting behavior displayed. Quick gestures might attract attention, so everything humans did on Verath 7 happened at a measured rhythm." "How's the power grid coming?" Daniel Hayes asked, approaching at his usual calm walk. "Should be operational by sunset," Peter replied without looking up. "I'm modifying all our vehicles too. Top speed will be about 5 kilometers per hour. Anything faster seems to trigger the predators." George had spent years studying various Earth disciplines, and he was teaching the younger colonists techniques to control fear and maintain calm. "Close your eyes," George instructed. "Feel your breathing. Count each breath. When the fear comes, and it will come, you acknowledge it but don't obey it. You stood still, then walked to the shelter. That's the difference. Humans can choose. We can override the automatic response." He brought other Galactic Council observers, and they all watched with the same disbelief. Species after species had failed here, yet humans moved through deadly territory as if taking an afternoon stroll. "I need to understand this," Krell said to Lisa during one of her research sessions. "What makes humans different? What allows you to ignore such powerful survival instincts?" "We feel it just as strongly as anyone else. But humans evolved with the ability to plan ahead, to think beyond immediate reactions. We can imagine future consequences and choose actions that don't feel natural in the moment. We diet when we're hungry. We exercise when we're tired. We stay quiet when we want to scream. We've been training our minds to control our bodies for thousands of years." Daniel and several others walked quickly, but not running, to investigate. A pack of 6 predators had entered the clearing. These were smaller than the others, only the size of large earth bears, but they moved with coordinated intelligence. The colonists gathered together, maintaining their slow, calm movements. Children held their parents' hands. Everyone breathed steadily, counting silently to themselves. The predator pack circled the humans, studying them with curious eyes. One of them stepped closer, sniffing the air. Amy Carter stood in its path, her heart hammering in her chest, but her feet planted firmly on the ground. "Good," George whispered from beside her. "You're doing perfectly." "I counted my breaths," Amy said when they were gone. "Just like you taught me, I got to 372. It's becoming your new instinct." It could carry supplies and people across dangerous terrain without triggering attacks. "It looks ridiculous," Daniel observed as the machine took its first slow steps. "It looks alive," Peter corrected, "and it moves like something that isn't running away." "That's what matters. They hunt anything that runs. They ignore anything that moves slowly. But I found something else too. The plants ignore anything that crawls slowly across them. Even the vegetation on this planet follows the movement rule. Predators here don't track heat or smell primarily. They track velocity. Fast movement means prey. Slow movement means either another predator or something poisonous to avoid. Humans fit perfectly into that second category when we move at walking pace. If we understand the rule completely, other species might learn to colonize worlds like this. Making someone actually do it when a monster is charging at them, that's the hard part. Humans have been practicing mind over matter for our entire history. It's cultural as much as biological. It carried representatives from 12 different species, all requesting permission to study the human colony. Daniel welcomed them carefully, explaining the rules before they even left their ships. "You can visit," he told them, "but you must move slowly at all times. If you run, we cannot save you." Human colonists had to form a protective circle around them, moving the panicked aliens slowly back to their shuttle while predators circled nearby. Only Krell and two others managed to spend a full day in the colony without fleeing. Krell seemed proud of his achievement. "I am learning," he told Daniel at the end of the visit. "My species values patience in many things. Perhaps we can apply that patience to survival. We can teach anyone willing to learn." Adults planned the next phase of construction, discussing how to expand the settlement while maintaining their careful pace. Amy Carter sat with the group, no longer the frightened young woman who had nearly fled on their first day. She had learned to walk through fear and in doing so had found a strength she didn't know she possessed. "We're really going to make this work," she said to George Palmer. The old man smiled. "We already have. We're living on a world that killed thousands before us. We're thriving here, all because we learned the simplest lesson. Let them understand that humans belong here too." 6 months had transformed the human settlement on Verath 7 from a small camp into a thriving colony. Buildings stood in wide circles connected by broad pathways designed for slow, deliberate walking. Every structure served a purpose, and every design element reinforced the culture of patience that kept the colonists alive. Daniel Hayes stood at the colony entrance, watching the morning patrol depart. 5 colonists walked toward the eastern ridge, a journey that would take 4 hours at their careful pace. The same trip could be completed in 40 minutes at a run, but running meant death. Time had become something different on Verath 7. Here, patience was currency, and haste was bankruptcy. Helen Brooks surveyed her latest architectural design, a community center built with extra-wide doorways and gentle ramps instead of stairs. She had learned that rushed movements happen most often in tight spaces or when people navigated obstacles. Her buildings eliminated those triggers. "The school opens next week," she told Daniel, pointing to a low structure surrounded by gardens. "I designed the playground without any equipment that encourages running. Climbing walls, balance beams, slow-moving swings. The children need play, but play that won't get them killed." "Better than anyone expected," Helen replied. "Children learn faster than adults. They don't have years of different habits to unlearn. Little Kevin Wright can walk past a predator without his heart rate even rising now." Her findings were changing how the Galactic Council understood Deathworld classifications. "The Council observers are arriving today," she reminded Daniel. "Krell is bringing 3 high-ranking officials. They want to see how we've managed to establish a permanent presence here." One was a tall, thin creature with translucent skin. Another resembled a floating jellyfish with multiple tentacles. The third was heavily armored with a shell-like covering. "Captain Hayes," Krell greeted him. "May I introduce Council Director Vren, Science Coordinator Shellax, and Military Observer Qual. They represent the 3 major councils." No sudden gestures, no running, no panic responses. "We must verify these claims personally." They observed the educational center, where Amy Carter now taught meditation techniques to younger colonists. George Palmer conducted a training session in the main square. A dozen colonists practiced moving through obstacle courses at measured speeds, learning to maintain calm even when navigating complex terrain. He spotted the visitors and walked over to greet them. "Welcome," George said with a slight bow. "Would you like to observe a practical demonstration?" Its teeth were visible even from a distance. The alien visitors tensed immediately. Qual's armored plates rattled together. Shellax's tentacles coiled tightly. Vren took a step backward. "Please remain calm," George instructed gently. "Watch how we interact with the local wildlife." The 3 humans approached the massive creature without hesitation, moving with steady confidence. The predator watched them come closer. Its eyes tracked their movement, but it showed no signs of aggression. When George was within 10 meters, he slowly raised one hand in greeting, then walked parallel to the creature, maintaining the same calm speed. The predator turned its head to follow their movement, then lost interest and wandered back into the forest. Kevin Wright waved slowly at the departing creature. "That's old Scarface," he explained to the shocked visitors. "He comes by every day around this time. He's kind of like a neighbor now." A child and survived. This defies every safety protocol in the galaxy. He respects them, understands them, but doesn't fear them the way an off-world adult would. Walking rovers transported materials between locations. Everything operated at speeds that wouldn't trigger predator responses. "We're mining deposits that other species couldn't access," Peter explained. "The richest veins are in the deepest valleys, surrounded by the highest concentrations of predators. We walk in, extract what we need, and walk out. Takes longer, but we get resources nobody else can reach. Your technology is deliberately inefficient. You sacrifice speed for safety. We're the most efficient colony on this planet because we're the only colony still alive." The patient had cut his hand while working but had maintained calm throughout the treatment, never once making sudden movements despite the pain. "Pain triggers flight responses in most species," Shellax observed. "How do you control that?" "The same methods humans have used for centuries to control automatic responses." Daniel and his team walked toward the source without rushing. A supply shuttle had crashed 3 kilometers into the forest. The ship had suffered engine failure and made an emergency landing in one of the most predator-dense regions of the mapped territory. 3 crew members were aboard, and their distress signal indicated injuries. "This is exactly the kind of scenario that has killed every previous rescue attempt," Krell said nervously. "The crash site is surrounded by predators. Any rescue team would have to pass through multiple hunting grounds. The risk is too extreme. Those crew members should remain in their shuttle until we can devise a safer extraction method. If we don't reach them soon, they'll die whether from injuries or from doing something foolish. We're going now." Krell stayed close to the humans, having learned their methods better than any other alien. The journey took them through territory that made even the experienced colonists nervous. Predators were everywhere. They passed within meters of creatures that could have killed them instantly. But the humans maintained their pace, breathing steadily, moving with purpose but never haste. 2 hours into the journey, they encountered a pack of 20 predators feeding on a large herbivore. The pack surrounded the pathway completely. There was no way around them. "We wait," Daniel said quietly. "We give them space and time." The predators fed for 30 minutes while the humans waited patiently. When the pack finally moved on, the team continued forward as if nothing unusual had happened. Amy Carter walked beside George Palmer, her breathing calm and measured. "A year ago I would have died here," she said softly. "I would have panicked and run." The shuttle lay on its side, smoke rising from damaged engines. Inside, 3 crew members huddled together, terrified. They were Zentari, the same species whose representative had been killed on the humans' first day. "Please help us," one of them begged through a translator. "The monsters are everywhere. We've been hearing them circle the ship for hours." "Can you do that?" The Zentari struggled constantly with their fear, nearly bolting several times. George Palmer walked beside them, coaching them through every moment of panic, teaching them breathing techniques, helping them count their steps. Dawn broke as they approached the colony. The Zentari crew members were exhausted, not from the walk itself, but from the mental effort of controlling their terror for 8 straight hours. When they finally reached safety, they collapsed in relief. Director Vren approached Daniel with something like awe in his translated voice. "You walked through the night, through territory that has killed thousands. You rescued a species that cannot naturally control their fear responses. And you all survived." "Captain Hayes," he said thoughtfully, "I think Verath 7 is just the beginning. I think humans might be the key to colonizing every Deathworld in the galaxy." "Maybe," he said, "but first let's make this one home." Research teams, military observers, and curious diplomats all wanted to understand how humans had accomplished what seemed impossible. Lisa Morgan found herself teaching classes to alien visitors 3 times per week. She stood in a specially designed training center, surrounded by students from 8 different species, explaining the basics of conscious behavioral control. "Fear is not your enemy," she told the assembled group. "Fear is information. It tells you danger is present. But you can acknowledge that information without obeying it. Humans call this emotional regulation. You start with minor discomforts. Hold your breath a little longer than feels comfortable. Stay in a cold room when you want to leave. Delay eating when you're hungry. Each time you override a small instinct, you strengthen your ability to override larger ones." He had them practice walking past holographic predators, learning to maintain calm in simulated danger. Krell participated in every session. Over the months, he had developed an unusual ability to control his panic responses. His species valued deliberation in their cultural practices, and he applied that cultural trait to physical survival. He could now walk past real predators with only moderate stress. "I am learning," Krell told George after one session, "but my people back home struggle. Out of 100 Threnks who have attempted your training, only 12 can maintain calm long enough to be useful on a Deathworld. Cultural change happens slowly, but it happens." He designed robots that moved at walking speed, machines that could harvest resources from Deathworlds without triggering predator responses. Mining corporations across the galaxy were already placing orders. "The irony is beautiful," Peter explained to a visiting engineer from the Corvan species. "For centuries, everyone has been building faster ships, quicker weapons, more efficient systems. Now the most valuable technology in the galaxy is designed to be slow. The economic implications are staggering. Humans are becoming very valuable partners." The colony had grown to 300 permanent residents, with another 500 humans spread across research stations and resource extraction sites on Verath 7. "We are prepared to offer your people exclusive contracts," Director Vren proposed. Humanity would become the official Deathworld specialists for the Galactic Council. Substantial compensation, protected territories, priority access to colonization rights. "Any world we colonize remains under human administration. We share resources but maintain sovereignty, and we continue teaching other species our methods. No monopolies on knowledge. The Council recognizes that human methods work because of cultural factors that cannot be easily replicated. We do not seek to exploit your people, but to partner with them." At 23 years old, she was now the head of the Deathworld Adaptation Program, training new human colonists and teaching alien species. Her transformation from frightened young woman to confident teacher had become legendary. She stood before a class of 50 new arrivals, humans who had volunteered to join the colony after hearing about its success. "You're going to be scared," she told them bluntly. "I was terrified my first month here. I nearly got myself killed twice because I panicked. But I learned, and so will you. The question isn't whether you'll feel fear. The question is what you'll do with that fear. There's no shame in recognizing your limits, but most of you will surprise yourselves. Humans are more adaptable than we think. We've survived ice ages and deserts and oceans. We've thrived in environments that should have killed us. This is just one more adaptation." Buildings sat far apart with gardens between them. Every design element discouraged rushing and promoted calm. "It's beautiful," Lisa said, walking through the newly completed central square. "It feels peaceful in a way cities rarely do. Most cities are designed for efficiency and speed. This one is designed for mindfulness and safety. People will live longer, healthier lives here because the environment itself encourages the behavior that keeps them alive." A military vessel dropped out of orbit, moving faster than any ship had approached Verath 7 before. It bore the markings of the Vorak Empire, a species known for their aggressive expansion and military pride. The Vorak commander, a massive being named Thorak, emerged from the ship with a squad of 20 soldiers. They moved with military precision, quick and efficient movements that immediately attracted attention from nearby predators. Daniel walked out to meet them, keeping his pace deliberately slow. "Commander Thorak, welcome to Verath 7. I must ask you and your soldiers to slow your movements. Fast motion triggers the local predators." "The Vorak do not slow down for lesser creatures. We have conquered 40 worlds through superior strength and discipline. Your success here is exaggerated. We will demonstrate proper military efficiency. The predators here don't care about your military strength. They only care about movement speed. My squad will survey this world properly, with Vorak speed and precision. We will show you how true warriors operate." They moved out in formation, running in coordinated patterns toward the forest edge. The human colonists could only watch in horror. The predators responded within seconds. A pack of 6 hunting creatures emerged from the tree line, tracking the fast-moving Vorak soldiers. The soldiers, trained warriors all, immediately shifted into combat formation and opened fire with energy weapons. The weapons had no effect. The predators' armored hides deflected the shots easily. The Vorak switched to explosive rounds, which only served to anger the creatures and attract more predators from the surrounding area. "Fall back," Thorak commanded his troops. "Tactical retreat to the ship." Predators poured from the forest, drawn by the combination of fast movement and loud noises. Within minutes, the situation became a massacre. Daniel made a quick decision. "Rescue team with me, slow formation." "We bring them back." "Stop running," George commanded. "Stand still, then walk with me slowly." Amy Carter reached Commander Thorak himself. The massive Vorak leader was surrounded by 4 predators, his weapon empty, his armor shredded. He was preparing to make a final stand. "Walk with me," Amy said calmly, extending her hand. "Put down your weapon and walk. Choose now." Together they walked through the predators at a measured, careful pace. The creatures watched but did not attack. The rescue operation took 2 hours. The humans saved 12 of the 20 Vorak soldiers. The other 8 had died in the first few minutes, unable or unwilling to stop their flight responses. The survivors sat in the medical center, being treated for injuries, their pride as shattered as their armor. Commander Thorak sat alone, staring at his hands. Daniel approached and sat beside him without speaking. Finally, Thorak broke the silence. "We are trained from birth to be warriors. Speed, strength, aggression, these are Vorak virtues. We are taught that hesitation equals death. How do you adapt so completely?" "We became good at changing our behavior to match our surroundings. We request training." Krell observed the training sessions with great interest. "This is the moment everything changes," he told Lisa. "The Vorak are the most militarily powerful species in the galaxy. If they acknowledge human expertise, every other species will follow. You offer partnership, not dominance. You teach freely instead of hoarding knowledge. The galaxy has never seen a species quite like humans before." Dozens of alien students trained in the Adaptation Center. Resource extraction operations were bringing wealth to the colony and its partners. The most dangerous world in the galaxy had become home. And humanity had found its place in the stars, not through conquest or superior technology, but through the simple ability to walk slowly when everyone else ran. 5 years had passed since Captain Daniel Hayes first landed on Verath 7. The small camp had grown into a bustling city of 12,000 humans and nearly 3,000 aliens who had successfully completed the adaptation training. New Haven stood as proof that the impossible could become ordinary with patience and practice. Daniel no longer spent his days managing a single colony. He now coordinated a network of human settlements across 14 different Deathworlds, each with its own unique challenge that required human adaptability. His office overlooked the central plaza where humans and aliens walked together at the measured pace that had become second nature. Lisa Morgan stood before the Galactic Council Science Assembly, presenting her final research paper. The auditorium held representatives from over 100 species, all eager to hear her conclusions about human success on Deathworlds. "We initially believed human advantage came from physical traits," Lisa explained, displaying data on screens around the room. "But our research shows it's primarily cultural and psychological. Humans developed conscious behavioral control through thousands of years of diverse environmental pressures. We learned to be whatever each situation required." "But Dr. Morgan, your research also shows that some alien species can learn these skills. What determines success?" "The Thranks have produced exceptional students because their culture already values deliberation. The Vorak are improving because they recognize the need to change. It's not about biology. It's about willingness to become something different." On Kreller 3, sudden gravity changes killed anyone who resisted them. Survival meant learning to relax completely and let the gravity shifts carry you. "The buildings need to flex," Helen explained to her alien engineering team. "Rigid structures break when gravity reverses. We design everything to bend, to move, to adapt, just like the people who will live here. Every world forces us to rethink everything we know about construction." His patient's technology was now standard equipment on 63 Deathworlds. Slow-moving robots harvested resources worth trillions of credits from places that had been completely inaccessible before human arrival. But Peter spent little time enjoying his wealth. He was too busy designing solutions for new challenges. His latest project was a ship that could navigate the storm reaches, a region of space where fast movement created dangerous energy cascades. The ship moved at a fraction of typical speed, taking months to cross distances other vessels covered in days, but it was the only vessel that could survive the journey. People think patience means doing nothing, Peter told a group of engineering students. But patience is active. It's choosing the right speed for the situation. Sometimes that's slow, sometimes it's fast. The key is knowing the difference. She was 30 years old now, and her Deathworld adaptation program had trained over 50,000 individuals from 40 different species. George Palmer had retired from active teaching, but he still visited the center regularly to observe. He walked slowly beside Amy, his movements carrying the grace of someone who had spent years perfecting the art of measured motion. "You've built something incredible," George told her. "When we first landed here, I never imagined it would grow this large. Now I help others discover that same choice. I walked through predator territory for 6 hours without triggering any attacks. Your people will be proud. Strength takes many forms." He now served as the ambassador for Deathworld development, a position created specifically to coordinate human-alien cooperation. He met with Daniel in the New Haven Administration Center to discuss the latest challenges. "We have requests for human assistance on 23 new worlds," Krell reported. "But we face growing concerns. Some species worry that humans are becoming too influential, too essential to galactic infrastructure." "Perhaps," Krell admitted, "but not for the reasons they think. Humans are not trying to dominate. You freely share your knowledge, but dependency creates its own problems. The galaxy is beginning to rely on human adaptability for challenges they cannot solve themselves. Humans show what's possible, but each species must find their own path to adaptation. More emphasis on helping species discover their own cultural strengths, rather than just copying human methods." The planet was called Silence 9, and its rule was perhaps the strangest yet discovered. On Silence 9, any sound above a whisper triggered massive underground predators that could detect vibrations from miles away. The ship's captain was Kevin Wright, the boy who had grown up on Verath 7. At 25, he was one of the youngest Deathworld colonization specialists in human service. His crew of 30 humans and 10 trained aliens prepared for landing in complete quiet. They had spent 6 months learning sign language and developing silent technology. Everything they brought made no sound. Their tools, their equipment, their vehicles all operated in perfect silence. "Remember," Kevin signed to his crew, "we whisper when we must speak. We use signs whenever possible. We move carefully to avoid dropping anything. This world demands silence, so we become silent." Crystal formations grew everywhere, catching the light of 3 distant stars. But beneath the beautiful surface, death waited for anyone who made too much sound. Kevin knelt and touched the ground gently. He felt vibrations through the soil, the movement of predators deep below. He stood slowly and signed to his crew. "They know we're here, but we're quiet enough. They're not interested in prey they can barely hear." They communicated through signs and whispers. Children would be taught to play quiet games, to laugh softly, to live in peaceful silence. Back on Verath 7, Lisa completed her presentation to the Science Assembly. "Human success on Deathworld stems from one fundamental trait," she concluded. "We can imagine being something we're not, then become it. We can picture ourselves as slow when we're naturally fast, silent when we're naturally loud, relaxed when we're naturally tense. This imagination, combined with discipline, lets us adapt to almost any environment. Dr. Morgan, your research suggests that any species with sufficient cultural flexibility could learn these skills. Do you believe the galaxy will eventually have many Deathworld specialists, not just humans? Humans shouldn't be the only species capable of this. We're just the first to figure it out on a large scale. In 100 years, I expect dozens of species will have their own adaptation programs, their own approaches to surviving impossible worlds. Humanity's gift to the galaxy isn't our ability to adapt. It's showing everyone else that adaptation is possible. It came with immense resources, political influence, and responsibility for coordinating settlement across hundreds of worlds. He gathered his senior team to discuss the offer. Lisa, Peter, Helen, Amy, and George all sat around the conference table in New Haven's government center. "This is what we worked for," Peter said. "Recognition, resources, the ability to expand our operations. If we accept total stewardship, we become the solution instead of the teachers. Other species will stop trying to learn. Insist that other species remain involved, remain responsible. If we make it too easy for others, if we do everything for them, we rob them of the chance to discover their own strength. We propose a Galactic Adaptation Council with representatives from every species that has successfully colonized a Deathworld. Humans lead initially, but only until others are ready to share that leadership." The Galactic Council accepted the proposal with enthusiasm. A new era of cooperation was beginning. On Verath 7, children played in the gardens of New Haven, moving at the careful pace that kept them safe. On Kreller 3, builders constructed flexible cities that swayed with gravity shifts. On Silence 9, Kevin Wright and his crew whispered their way through establishing a new home. Across 14 worlds, humans had learned that survival meant becoming whatever each environment required. They had proven that the greatest strength wasn't speed or power or technology. It was the ability to change, to adapt, to become something new while remaining fundamentally human. The Deathworlds that had killed thousands now hosted thriving communities. The impossible had become routine. And humanity had found its purpose among the stars, not as conquerors or warriors, but as teachers of the simple truth that had saved them on Verath 7. When the galaxy ran, humans walked. When the galaxy shouted, humans whispered. When the galaxy fought, humans adapted. And in adapting, they had shown everyone else that there was always another way, always another choice, always another path forward if you were willing to imagine it and disciplined enough to follow it. The Deathworlds were no longer death sentences. They were homes. And humans, with their strange ability to ignore instinct when necessary, had made them so. One rule had governed Verath 7: don't run. Humans had followed that rule and discovered that sometimes the slowest path led to the greatest success. Now that lesson echoed across the galaxy, changing everything it touched, one careful step at a time.